So I'm walking down the road, a dirt road in the country with my dog, my dear heart dog, Petey the Greyhound, my dog-skin son. And it's a perfect day. The sun is out and it's warm, but not hot. And there's a breeze that's cool, but not cold. We don't have anywhere in particular that we're walking to, and we're in no particular hurry to get there. Off to the side of the road are tall grasses, and now and again, Petey goes leaping over into the grass because he loves to walk in grass that's tall enough to tickle his belly. And then he comes running back to me, and he bumps his head up against my hand, because you know what hands are for, giving scratches around the ears and down the neck. And then he runs up the road. And as he's running up the road, I realize he doesn't have his collar or leash on. I'm not carrying his leash. Well, one of the very first things they tell you when you adopt a retired racing greyhound is that you never let them out without a leash unless they're in an enclosed area. Is greyhounds, when they start to run, they're not thinking about anything except running. And they can run at full speed, 35, 40 miles an hour. Well, they can't keep it up long, but they go fast enough that by the time they stop, they don't know where they are. And you can't keep up with them, so you don't know where they are. Oh, they shared so many stories with me, horror stories of recently adopted greyhounds being lost because they were off leash. I never let Petey off leash, but here we are, walking down this road without a leash. And Petey, well, he's not going anywhere. Yeah, he runs up the road, but then he comes circling back around me, his tail's wagging. Tongue is hanging out with a doggy grin, and he goes off the road, comes back to me, goes up the road, comes back to me. It's fine. It's all right. I guess it's all right if I left the leash somewhere. I can't quite remember where we came from. And then as Petey runs up the road again a bit, I notice how beautiful he is running. All four legs whole, no limping. And I remember Petey got sick. He got bone cancer. One of his legs was amputated before he died. But here he is. Oh, happy to see me. He's with me. And that's when I really remember just for a moment where I was before I found myself on this road with Petey. Well, I just died, but well, it kind of just slips away from me again. And here I am. I'm just walking down the road with Petey. And it's a beautiful day. It's a good day to be walking with Petey, even if I don't know quite where we're going. It's the best thing to do, walking down the road with Petey. Though right about then, I start to realize I'm getting a little thirsty. I mean, it is a dry, dusty road. And as I walk a little further, I realize I'm hearing the sound of water. That gurgling, rushing sound. And it's making me more and more thirsty, though I can't see anywhere around me where there's water. But then we turn around a corner and I see it. The source of where that water is. And it's behind this gate, this, well, kind of pearly gate, only not exactly pearly, more like neon, with the words heaven written up above, and it's flashing on and off like Eat at Joe's, only it's saying heaven, heaven, heaven. And I gotta admit, it's not exactly what I was expecting. But behind that bright, flashing light, I can see there's a fountain. And that's where that sound of bubbling water is coming from. And I'm feeling so thirsty. And that's when I notice right beside that flashing gate, there's also an angel. I can't quite look at it directly. It's so beautiful and fearsome. But I can hear the angel calling out, "Come, refresh yourself. You must be tired from your journey. Drink the waters." And I'm so thirsty. I call Petey and I start in, but as soon as I call out for Petey, the angel cries out, "No, it isn't allowed. Can't you read the sign?" Oh, I gotta admit, with all that flashing light and the fearsomeness of the angel and all, I hadn't even noticed there was a sign. But now that the angel has pointed it out, it's quite obvious there, right beside the gate. There's this big sign. And in big, bold letters right at the top, it says, "No dogs." And then it goes on. "No cats, no gerbils, no goldfish, no mockingbirds, no hummingbirds, no coyotes, no beavers, no animals, wild or domestic of any sort allowed." Gosh, it's kind of harsh, don't you think? It's the rules. But you are welcome. Won't you come in and drink the waters? And standing there, the water so close, I feel more parched than I have ever felt in my life. I want to drink the water, but Petey. And I look back and Petey hasn't even left the edge of the road. He's just standing there looking at me. His tail doing a little slow back and forth, hopeful wag. And then he looks up the road and he looks back at me. And he looks up the road again and back at me. And I'm looking at Petey and then back at the water behind those flashing gates. And then back at Petey. No thanks. I think we're gonna just keep walking. And so I go back to the road, and as I turn my back, I hear the gate clang shut behind me. And as soon as it's shut, I can't hear the water anymore. I'm still thirsty, but it's not quite so overpowering, especially when I see Petey. Oh, he's so excited that I've come back to the road. He's doing that little jump he does. He knows he's not allowed to jump up. So he does this little 3-inch jump with just his front feet up and down. He's so excited. And his tail is wagging so hard. It's like a helicopter blade rolling round and round, like it's gonna bring the rest of him up into the air. And then he starts running up the road and running back, circling me, running up the road, circling me, running up the road. Well, clearly, we're to keep walking. So I do. I'm walking down that road with Petey. And the more I walk, the more I forget how thirsty I was, because I'm just loving this walk with Petey. Oh, I don't know exactly where we're going. But then we crest a hill. And there, laid out before us, is this big old farmhouse. There's an old woman sitting on the front porch, and she's sitting there just shelling peas, and her hair is this wild mass of white curls, and the way the sun is shining on her head, it's almost like a halo. And surrounding that farmhouse are fields and gardens, and I see some woods. As we get a little closer, Petey, he's off the road. He's headed towards that farmhouse. I'm a little nervous about our reception. The old woman, she calls out, "Well, now, why don't you just help yourself to some water at the well? It looks like you've had a long journey." And I hesitate, given the last place. But then I look over at the well, an old stone well. There's a bucket and a ladle and a cup, but I see there's also a big bowl on the ground, big enough for a greyhound to have a good drink of water, and some other smaller dishes for smaller animals. There's a bird bath even. And I walk over there, and there's Petey waiting, his tongue hanging out of his mouth. He's thirsty too. I bring up some water and I pour some into his dish, and he starts to drink it up in that way that greyhounds do, that spreads water more over everything else and into his mouth. And I pour myself a cup. And as I drink that water, I can feel it going all the way down. And it's like not just my thirst, but every bit of weariness, everything that I was carrying that I didn't even realize just is gone. Next thing I know, Petey's running up towards the farmhouse, and I'm trying to call him back, but the old woman says, "Well, now come on, set yourself down a spell. You've been walking a long time." So I followed Petey up to the farmhouse, and Petey just jumps up the steps, and there's a big old bed, clearly big enough for a greyhound. And he gets right on top of that bed and he starts circling around and around and around until he's worked that bed just the way he likes it. And then he flops down. And his tail is beating down on the floorboards of that porch as I sit down on the step beside the old woman. Only now that I'm beside her, she doesn't look all that old. She has that white hair that's just still glowing in the sunlight, but she looks more kind of timeless. She hands me a handful of peas and I start shelling them with her. And we sit there a while, just quiet, shelling peas as I take in everything around me. There's a crepe myrtle tree right beside the porch, and there's a mockingbird. That mockingbird is showing off his entire repertoire. And I can see horses in the fields. I hear the lowing of cows and baaing of sheep. I think that's a coyote sneaking along the edges of the fence line. And then over there in the woods, I think I catch a glimpse of a deer, maybe even a bushy-tailed fox. And in the yard, there are three black cats that look really familiar. And then one of them comes right up to me. She has a white heart on her chest, just like my first cat, Magic, had. Well, she looks just like Magic. And she comes right up to me, bumps her head up against my chin, and starts to purr. It is Magic. I turn to the old woman and I say, "What is this place? Where am I?" "Well, now, where do you think you are?" "Well, I'm a little embarrassed to say it, but well, it kind of feels like heaven." "Well, now, there you go." "Yeah, but I don't know if you know this, but a little ways down the road there's this place with this big neon gate and all, and it says it's heaven." "Oh, well, honey, you can't copyright the name." "But doesn't it bother you? I mean, folks coming down that road could see that. They'd see it before they saw this. They might go to the wrong place." "Oh, well, now, honey, if those folks want to go there without any animals and birds of any sort, well, maybe they're in the right place. Now, your boy here, soon as he knew you were coming, he went straight on down that road to find you. And he brought you right here now, didn't he?" And I look over at Petey. That tail is still thumping on the floorboards of that porch. His big, liquid brown eyes are looking at me with all the love in the world. And I know I am exactly where I'm supposed to be, home with my dog-skin boy.